A lot of these women come in with very low self-esteem and self-worth. A lot of times I'll ask women, name something good about yourself. Just 2 or 3 traits, and they'll say, I don't know anything. They don't even recognize positive traits in themselves. So we start there and just building up that lack of confidence, because a lot of times an abuser breaks down your victim, gaslighting, calling names, and starting to recognize those patterns. And that, yes, in relationships, there's going to be struggles, but it's not okay to be verbally or physically abusive. They think it's something in them, and a lot of times that they deserve this kind of treatment. And just
welcome to another edition of the CYR podcast. When you clean your room, you clean your life. Today I have a very special guest here. We have Lorie Crane here with us, licensed mental health practitioner. She's a therapist over here at Bear Company Counseling, really changing people's lives, really doing her thing. And I think it's super dope. I think it's super dope to have her here. She's super nervous. And so I just want to say, for everybody that's watching right now, just know she is pressing past some discomfort to be on here. And so I think that's super dope. I think it's super dope. And she can blame me. She can blame me because I'm pushing her to come outside of her comfort zone, because I think she's a dope individual and a dope person and has a lot of insight and a lot of things to share. So welcome, Lorie.
Thank you.
How you doing today?
Great. Thanks for asking.
She's been telling me she was going to be sick on this day. I think earlier she messaged me saying her goldfish died.
My goldfish died.
And that she wasn't going to be able to come because she had to do the service for the goldfish.
Yep.
But we were able to get an expedited service going so we could get her here. But no, Lorie, can you tell us a little bit about you, who you are, what you do?
Licensed mental health therapist. I've been doing this for about 25 years, and I wasn't really good at it when I started. I actually did in-home therapy. That was kind of my niche for a long time, and I really enjoy working with families that have trauma, big families. It's just kind of my niche that I found over the years.
Facts.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what originally got you into wanting to be a therapist? I know for myself, I didn't grow up thinking ooh, best occupation to be is a therapist. And so I only imagine for so many other people it's kind of similar. So tell us a little bit about that.
I find people's behaviors fascinating. Little history is I had selective mutism. So this is outside my comfort zone.
What is that?
It's where you talk in one environment, but you don't talk in another environment. So I would not talk in school, and people think that I would occasionally talk, but I wouldn't talk. And so anyways, I learned that if I didn't talk because of the anxiety, my friends would talk for me, or the teachers would ask questions and they'd be like, oh, Lorie doesn't talk. So I actually was in that pattern from K through senior year. I did have friends. I wasn't bullied or anything. And then I started working at Burger King, and I had to talk. I had to take orders to work. And so that's what brought me out of my shell. And after that, I found a lot of power in having a voice, an advocate for myself. And I wanted to help people that were stuck in something or a rut and had behaviors they couldn't get past. So that's what interested me to start with. And then I started working with a center for kids that misbehaved, and it went from there. And then my boss suggested, she's like, I think you'd be a good therapist. And so she encouraged me to go to grad school, and that's how I got started.
Love that. I think it speaks volumes to have been on one side of, a mental health journey and make it through one side and then come out on the other side and say, I think I want to be able to give back to people who are in similar situations. I think for a lot of us practitioners, that's how we even come into the field. It's like we have our own life experiences that kind of lead us down this path of exploration. And it's like we get these tools along the way, or we work with other professionals who then help us to come outside of our shells or process through the traumas or whatever it is that we experience. And we're like, yo, I got these keys. I want to be able to give these keys to somebody else so they can drive their car. So I think that's really dope. What was it like growing up with selective mutism?
A lot of people would think that I was stuck up and because I didn't talk. But the thing is, I wasn't doing to be defiant. I really physically could not talk. It was mortifying to have somebody look at me or call me, especially the teachers. So I would just shrink in my chair or not make eye contact. And the good thing is if you're a good student, which I was, that you get ignored. So it reinforced that behavior. And then when people talked for me, it was even better because I didn't have to order. Like I couldn't order in restaurants with waiters or waitresses. I couldn't do anything like anything that involved somebody outside my comfort zone, like a person at Walmart. If I needed some help with something, I wouldn't be able to ask a store clerk or anything. I'd have to have somebody do it for me. So yeah, it was very like limiting. And I didn't realize how much freedom there was when I got past that discomfort and started talking. So that was really actually exciting. And I've worked with quite a few, it's been girls with selective mutism, and being able to voice out loud their experiences, their eyes light up.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, somebody else does experience it. So it's really cool to see that connection or have that connection with somebody.
Definitely.
Yeah.
For yourself, and I guess it could apply to other people too, like, what are some of like the, I guess, environmental conditions or biological conditions that can, lead to a person to struggle with selective mutism?
Some of it was some stuff going on at home, in the home, my personal life, and then just a disposition to anxiety and depression. So just kind of a whirlwind of combination of those things. And mine, if I do something, I do it very well. So I did selective mutism very well. It was more of an extreme case. So I think for me, it was mainly just a case of shyness, but for some reason it just was really, really strong for me. And then it just got reinforced because people learned to talk for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
was there like a transition period where there was a time where you maybe didn't feel as shy and you felt a little more comfortable and confident, and then all of a sudden it was just kind of like, the switch flipped on and off from?
Yeah, I had my first boyfriend, and then his best friend, and his girlfriend, and I were like, we'd hang out all the time. And so they gave me a little more confidence in school, and I talked to them and maybe some other people. So that was just the start of coming outside my shell, developing a little more confidence in myself. And it was probably in high school. And that's weird because high school is usually hard to adjust. That's when I started coming out a little more. Yeah. So
I've noticed especially like with some of the kiddos that I work with, and I even look back on like just like experiences, like with my own high school experience and stuff like that. I almost think the transition from going from elementary, middle to high school is almost more liberating and freeing for people because there's a bigger pool of people that you can be around. It goes from 2 cliques to, depending on where you go to high school, like if you go to high school here in Omaha, like these schools got thousands of kids. And so now it's like I can really start to find my tribe and I can find my people. And it's not like a spotlight is on every single person. I went to Omaha Central, and I remember my graduating class, we had, just in my class, I might be tripping, but I think it was like, 600 of us graduated, and I think in the whole class we had like 12 or 1,300 students.
wow. Yeah, that's a big group.
Yeah, and I remember when we did our senior picture, like I saw people that I had never seen before. I'm like, I didn't even know you went to this school. Like, who are you? And so I think that's an added benefit, especially like with kids that might struggle just like with shyness, being able to come out of their shell, because now it's not like I don't feel like the spotlight is on me, but it also can have like an adverse effect too, because I can become even more invisible.
Yeah.
That was just an extra 2 cents from what you were saying previous to that. Today though, I got some questions for you, Lorie. I got some questions that the people want to know. And we're gonna hop right into it because I think we could take a lot from your wisdom and your expertise in this field, because you have over 15, 20 years doing this thing.
Yeah.
So we're gonna hop right into it. Cool. Let's see. What drew you to specialize in working with clients who have experienced domestic violence and grief?
personal experiences with domestic violence and getting out of the cycle and just being a different person from when I was that young girl in that cycle of abuse, and just getting out of it and just identifying with people who struggle with domestic violence and how it can be very powerful to get out of that cycle and realize that you can be an advocate for yourself, that you're not whatever you were trapped in that cycle, stupid or dumb or the gaslighting. And, domestic violence goes both ways. Guys can have an abuser too, but usually it's not spoke about as much because the guy's embarrassed or just taboo of it or whatever. So yeah, in the field, I think I've only worked with one gentleman over the years.
Mm-hmm.
So just recognizing the patterns and helping the women that I've worked with, recognizing there is an out. People always think that we just can go in and pull these women out of situations and that's going to be okay. And that's not always the case. They do love the other person. And there's financial situations or kids, or there's lots of stuff to think about if you're leaving somebody you've been with, for a long time. And there's times when that person is what you need, in the relationship.
Can you talk a little bit about the situation that you were able to
get out of?
Yeah.
So we'll call him Mike. It was my first love. And we probably met when we were 12 and we were together till I was about 19-ish, 20-ish. And he was very, right from the start, I didn't recognize the red flags. A lot of name calling and putting down and gaslighting. And I was always working to make myself better for him. And then eventually I realized the cycle, like he would call me names or put me down. I'd cry and get upset. He'd promise to change and then it'd go right back to it. And my friends really didn't like him. So I was starting to they wouldn't include us in groups and things because he was just a jerk. And then after a while, it got physically abusive. And it started small. It's not a small thing, but shoving or pushing or, grabbing my arm. And then when we were in the car, if he was driving, it'd be very erratic driving, like threatening to. I remember literally once he was on the edge of a creek and he was threatening to drive the car down the creek. And then after I broke up, he followed me for like 2.5 years. And so it was before cell phones and things. So my mom would have to wait on the front porch for me so that he wouldn't come out. He'd hide, come running up to me. If I go to work, he'd come out from behind the buildings and grab me and try to talk to me so I couldn't go into work. It was actually very mortifying for somebody that doesn't want to be in the spotlight, and a couple times this gentleman would come out and pull him off of me. Like he'd push me up into walls and stuff. And I just remember, oh my gosh, this has got to stop. And you're so tense and you're always looking around your shoulder and stuff. And then when I met at the time, my husband, we were working at Burger King and he thought he'd be funny and he came outside and he jumped and said, boo. Well, I thought it was my ex and I screamed and everybody to this day talks about it. And he's like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And it was kind of funny in the end, but you just get extra hyper vigilant. And it's just a fear that he's, and you tell your friends and family, he's going to kill me. And you actually believe that because they hide the behaviors very well. The gaslighting, the abuse, it's behind closed doors. And what made me finally get out of it, I went back and forth. He'd apologize, is when I was covering up bruise that he left on my face with foundation. And from my mom, she did not care for him. And I thought, this has got to stop. And then after I was away for a while, people are like, you gained weight. The dark circles went away. You just came outside yourself, So, and it was a cycle in his family too. His dad was, domestic violence with the mom and stuff. So it's not like he was a monster. It was like learned behaviors and stuff, but it was not a healthy relationship. It was very toxic. So
we see that with most types of abuse. Like typically the person who's the abuser, somewhere along the line saw behaviors modeled. And many times, like I remember watching this thing with Chris Brown and he was just talking about how he used to watch his mom get abused. And then like the whole incident with Rihanna happened. Mm-hmm. And then like I'm not here to talk about Chris Brown, but we know his history and all that stuff. But it's just like, I don't ever think anybody goes into a situation. Maybe there's some people, but I don't think most people go into the situation saying like, I'm going to abuse, but
I agree.
but it's that history of that trauma plus the already tendency that's there, and then the want to be able to control what's not in their control.
Yes.
It leads to that. And so I'm glad that you finally were able to have the courage to be able to leave that situation when you did. I know for a lot, and you probably know this as well, working with individuals who are struggling in these situations, many times like the victim will almost justify some of the behaviors.
Yes.
And they'll look for ways to not villainize the person who is doing it. How, as a clinician, do you help a victim of domestic violence start to see the worth in themselves so that they don't justify those ugly behaviors?
And that's a big thing, is a lot of these women come in with very low self-esteem and self-worth. And I actually work on that first, What's very powerful for me is a lot of times I'll ask women, name something good about yourself, just 2 or 3 traits. And they'll say, I don't know anything. And then I'll name things because I've been with them a session or 2 and they're amazed and they start crying. They don't even recognize positive traits in themselves. So we start there and just building up that lack of confidence, because a lot of times an abuser breaks down your victim, gaslighting, calling names, and things like that, and starting to recognize those patterns. And that, yes, in relationships, there's going to be struggles, but it's not okay to be verbally or physically abusive, because they think it's something in them. And a lot of times that they deserve this kind of treatment. And just psychoeducation and bringing up that self-esteem and asking them what they want. Do they see a future with this person? Is this something you want? I think that it can be worked on and it can be solved, but I would recommend obviously couples therapy, and each of the people work on themselves individually, but a lot of times they're not at the same stages. The abuser doesn't think anything's wrong and they don't want to work on themselves, or even the victim doesn't want to bring it into the eyes of somebody else and go into couples therapy, or they think it's them. So there's all kinds of reasons.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yo, real quick, I almost forgot. As a licensed therapist, I'm big on mental health, and I'm big on making sure that you're taking care of you. And I also want to get rid of this stigma that we got towards mental health. Like, there's nothing wrong with talking to a therapist. So if you're somebody that's out there that really wants to start getting their mind right, who wants to really start understanding their emotions and being able to process things that you probably repressed, that you probably ain't talked about, that you might have been even ashamed about talking about. Or check this out. You might not be ashamed about it and you just ain't found a person for you to talk to. You want to find somebody that's relatable, that can understand you, got a little swag, you know what I'm saying? A little swag. And they not too far removed. Make sure that you tap in with Bear Company Counseling. All you got to do is hop down in the description, click the link, put in your info, and the front desk rep will reach out to you and get you plugged in with a therapist that I promise you, as long as you're ready, will help you to get whatever you need right up here so that you can succeed in every other avenue and aspect of your life. Tap in with a therapist today at Bear Company Counseling. Now you can get back to the video for real. I promise I won't hop back in again.
How does trauma from domestic violence impact a person's mental health? We talked a little bit about just like self-esteem, self-worth, but like how does that trauma affect them long term?
One of the biggest things is generalization. Like, women will be like, all men hit, all men yell, or they'll think that in their minds, not necessarily say it. And children especially, it's just that generalization that this is my normal, this happens, it's okay, it happens everywhere. And so just kind of let them know that's not normal for everybody. Also, just not being able to speak up from themselves, it hinders in a lot of ways. So, and I kind of, in my mind, got off task. So,
no, you're good.
Yeah.
What I heard you say is it not only affects the person who is directly being impacted, but like if it's happening within a family unit, it's affecting all of them. The kids see it, and that can create a deficiency or a want to be able to control within them, where they can either perpetuate the violence or perpetuate victimhood.
Yep.
I think we see that a lot as well too. especially in women, because women are more open with talk, like you said, more open about coming forth if they are experiencing domestic violence, right? Like if an individual saw their parent be victim to domestic violence, then they more likely are to think this is normal.
Normal.
Like a partner becoming erratic, or like not being able to control their emotions, or taking things out on, another person. Like, this is normal and it's okay and we'll get through it. What's your experience like with that in your clients? Like, have you seen that?
Yes. I think with women or children, or even myself, thinking back to that time period, you become very good at reading body language. And so the minute you get up, you start reading the body language, children or women, and you know if you can be like a normal person and have back and forth conversations, or children can play and be free, or you have to be on edge and be adult and quiet because the abuser is starting to cycle and there's tension in the home, and a lot of times I've seen over and over and over the children want to protect the mom and they get in the middle of physical fights. So there's a lot of stuff that kids are doing, trying to be little adults in the situation, and it creates chaos and fear. And then a lot of times boys especially get very angry, and they model that behavior that they see and they've learned, not always, but they're modeled how to act when we're angry, or this is how they think it's okay to act when they're angry. So, yeah.
I don't think parents realize, like, when they say their kids act so mature for their age, like, that isn't always a good, it's not normal.
Yeah.
And it's not always a good thing. Like, I think as a parent, like, we want our kids to be so much more self-sufficient in certain areas. And even myself, to a certain extent, I got 5 kids. And so I'm like, the more y'all could do, like,
go for it.
Good.
Yeah.
But when it's to that point to where it's like, oh yeah, they're so mature for their age and they're experiencing these traumatic situations, typically this maturity that they're exhibiting is them trying to cope with the situations that are around them not feeling safe and feeling like they can depend on the figures that are around them. So they're trying to learn how to depend on themselves the best way that they can.
Yes. And I teach that too. I'm like, if it's their mother that's being abused, your mother did the best she could in the situation, but they've learned early on that the people that are supposed to take care of them aren't able to. It's not that they don't love them. So they become independent, very super independent, hypervigilant. They don't get to enjoy childhood as a child.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Bunch of signs of PTSD.
Yes.
Bunch of them.
Exactly.
Let me ask you this. For somebody that's struggling with this, let's say you're just like a friend of somebody and you see them going through this, you see them struggling with it, and you're like, they could probably use some therapy because they need to get through this. Like, how do you even approach conversations like that with an individual?
I think it's important as a friend to try to keep. Okay, so we'll go there. Okay. I have a friend that's struggling in a domestic violence situation, and it's hard. It's not really hard as a therapist. I'm her friend, not her therapist, but sometimes she'll come to me and be like, as a therapist. And I'm like, hey, to clarify, I'm your friend, and I suggest you get therapy. And I also know that I'm obviously on the side of my friend, but I at times get very frustrated the relationship because there's that back and forth. So I listen. That's the biggest thing. I don't judge. Sometimes I do get frustrated. I've had to back off emotionally because I know the cycle. I know how frustrating it is. But when you're dependent on finances and a house and everything else, it's not just an easy, I'm going to get up, take my 4 kids and leave. You know, just be there if they need you. If they want to talk and cry, or even if they want to come to your house for a normal day, just whatever you can do as a friend to support whoever's going through that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think it's easy. I think it's easy from the outside looking in.
Yes.
To make those recommendations, to say like, you just need to leave. You just need to do this. You need to do that. When all the while we're actually just isolating them further and further away from us. Mm-hmm. I know even with just like some of the clients that I work with, not necessarily like situations like this, but in situations where they want to see people change, or they want to have like they see people having bad habits and they're like, you need to change this habit. You need to change this habit. What ends up happening is that person just like they stop coming to them. They stop
Yes.
talking to them. And that's almost worse than
Yes.
them not even participating in the thing that they need to participate in to get better, because now their support system just dwindles.
It's gone.
It dwindles. And so I really appreciate that piece of advice. Like if there's somebody out there who you know is struggling with domestic violence, like they're on the victim side of things, don't cut them off, and be patient with them and just be there for them. Be an ear, listen and hear them, and still give them nudges, but like,
Yeah, definitely. Or even say, can I help? Can I take your kiddo for an afternoon, take them to the zoo, whatever kind of break that they need. And, for me as a therapist, and even as a woman, the most dangerous time is when a woman leaves. They really do get killed or attacked or anything like that. And that's on my mind with my friend or any other woman that I've worked with,
Definitely.
yeah.
Definitely. What are some tools that can help to build up self-esteem, or just like that self-worth piece, so that people are able to, gain the courage to be like, you know what, I deserve more than this?
Just recognizing a lot of it is just that negative voice we have in our head, and it just becomes on a loop. We focus on all of our negative features, and that's just society in general. And I tell people all the time, I know it sounds easy, I know it sounds cheesy, but when you get that thought in your mind, I'm a failure, I can't do anything right, I'm stupid, you have to start replacing it with that positive thought, because you've practiced so much the unhealthy coping or habit that you just want to replace it with the positive. And even taking care of yourself, carving out self-care, or going for a walk, or spending time with a friend, anything that's going to get you to feel better about yourself. Reading inspirational quotes, pasting them. I've had many clients paste them up on their mirror or the door before they leave. Surrounding yourself with friends that are going to be uplifting versus, and I don't think friends even recognize sometimes that they're hindering somebody. They're just trying to help, and they're focusing in on the negative. So yeah.
Building up and creating new core beliefs, which is what you were just speaking about, creating those new core beliefs, or those internal dialogues that we have about ourselves, is so key. It's key in overcoming domestic violence situations. It's key in overcoming
shyness
and confidence situations,
Yes.
which I see you pressing past it right now. And everybody out there, go ahead and drop like some thumbs in the comments, because she's killing this right now. And we couldn't even tell that you were nervous. And she's nervous as heck. She's over here sweating invisible bullets, but just the replacing and rewriting of those core beliefs is so important in every aspect of our lives. Like when we want to experience change, when we want to experience growth, when we want to experience a level up, it's all about rewriting this version of ourselves that we are now, because this version of ourselves that we are now has so many different prompts about it. I am this, I am that,
Yes.
I am stupid, I am not good enough, I'm all these different things. And as long as we're walking in that, as long as we're believing that, as long as we're looking for ways to affirm those, that's all we'll ever be. And so like when I see, and when I'm working with people who are like, I'm trying everything and nothing is changing,
Yes.
I always challenge those core beliefs that we have, because that's really where it starts. It's like, if we want to experience any type of change, we have to rewrite that. And it's not an easy process. It's a process that you constantly have to keep on picking up the pen and working at over and over and over again. Like I equate it to the gym, because I like to work out.
Yeah.
And there's periods in time, and I'm trying to make them less and less, where I stop going to the gym for like, it might be like a month. I stop going for a month. And when I go back to the gym and I go work out, I'm so much weaker. It hurts so much more. And I'm just like, oh, this sucks. This sucks. And like that right there is a reminder for me of like what it's like to change core beliefs, right?
Yes.
Like I start off in this weakened state where everything is harder, everything takes more energy, like I really have to work. But over time, like, it gets easier as
and
long as I
easier.
continue to do it. And that doesn't mean like after a week or after 2 weeks, but that means like if I consistently show up, if I consistently like pick up the weight and try again, and I might not be able to hit it 5 times this time, I might just hit it once. But if I continue to do that, I'll eventually be able to hit the weight that I want to hit.
Yep.
And it's the same thing with rewriting our core beliefs and how we see ourselves. That's where true transformation comes.
Yes. And people get comfortable with unhealthy. That's their normal. And so when you push into healthy, it feels weird or uncomfortable, even though it's healthy. So you want to go back to what you felt comfortable with. And there's that up and down, up and down. And they'll tell me, Lorie, I tried it. How long did you try it? 6 hours. Well, of course it's not going to work. I hear that a lot from adults and kids. I'm like, and I always say 3 weeks, 21 days to form a habit. And then you've got to keep going past that because you've practiced this for 10 years, whatever. You're not going to, it's that instant gratification. Yeah. Yep.
I think you just hit it right on the head. You hit it right on the head with that. Love that. Last thing. If there was one piece of advice that you could give your younger self that could 10x your growth in whatever area you wanted to grow in, what would that piece of advice be?
Live life. Do what makes you happy. Just push forward those fears. That was more than one word.
No, not one word. Yeah,
Yeah. I have a friend that calls me a adrenaline junkie, and I love traveling outside the country and zip lining and riding Jeeps and going in the ocean. Because you only have one life. And as quirky as it sounds, I want to experience a lot, and I work hard to do the goals I want. And, whether it's my prized car that I love, I just visualize.
She drive an SRT. She out here, got her Dodge Charger.
Yeah. I visualize it in my head. I might not always write it down, but I'll over and over until I want something. I kind of almost hone in on it, whether it's travel or the car, just that grit and determination. It's not going to be easy. And sometimes it's frustrating. You give up, but then I'm like, it's another day. You can start over. I ask people, what's the worst thing that can happen? It's another day. You can start over. Yeah. So yeah.
Love that. What's one thing you could leave the people with today?
Take care of yourself. Believe in yourself. Practice self-care. Don't feel guilty. It's important. So yeah.
Love that.
Thanks.
Lorie, I appreciate you pushing through this. I don't think y'all understand. We've been prepping for this for like a month and a half, and she's been telling me how much she hates me every day and how she's about to just leave.
I get a root canal.
She said I put in my 2 weeks.
I did.
She put it in about 4 times. But no, I think this is super dope.
Thank you.
You're a natural. Like this flow. Like I think. And I know everything that was said here today is something that people can actually take and really benefit from. So truthfully, I'm truly grateful for you coming on today.
Social media is out of my comfort zone, but I enjoy therapy, I enjoy working with people. I've done this so long that it's something I'm passionate about. If I can give or help somebody, I'm going to. And the biggest thing for me as a therapist is the people I work with always leave me with something. They teach me too. It's not just me helping them. They always teach me something or have insights or perceptions that makes me come outside my comfort zone too.
Definitely. And also, if y'all want to book with Lorie, go to psychologytoday.com, type in Lorie Crane. That's LAURIE space CRAYNE.
Yep.
Lorie Crane. And you can also search her on bearcompanycounseling.com. and book an appointment with her. She sees kids, she sees adults. She specializes with people who are experiencing intense trauma, but she can help you wherever you're at.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the CYR podcast. When you clean your room, you clean your life. We out. We're done.
Cool. Is it off?
No, it's not off. I gotta get up and turn it off.